Happy Friday, everyone. Doing a 20 minutes on art session. They sometimes go a little over. Remember, repetition builds or rebuilds identity. So if you want to be an artist, you just repeat being an artist every day. If you draw a page full of egg shapes like this for 20 minutes a day, then you're an artist. Okay, can I zoom? Yes, I can zoom. So, this world is in a chaotic place. Let's get real. And it's easy to dig our heads into the sand and just ignore it all and just go and stay in our shire. And I think that's important too. It's important to have our own personal shire. Is that you, lawman? Dude. Speaking of the law, so I've been doing these daily 20-minute sessions here. I want to do them on school, but I'm going to work my way up to that. There just seems to be more traffic on TikTok. So speaking of art and war, and many people might think, and I've had this thought too, that art is a luxury and you can't make art in war. And what the hell is that about? People are suffering, people are surviving, and you're talking about drawing? What the hell is wrong with you? And so, when I come back to, the healing power of art, it's absolutely necessary, especially in times of war. And when you look back at history, war creates fear, right? Fear is going to create pressure. What do you do with that pressure? Seriously, you'll explode. And then what good are you to anyone if you explode? So that pressure needs release. It needs expression. So how are you going to express that pressure? You can do it in a lot of different ways. Literal exercise is great. And so is art. I'm not talking about prompting. I'm talking about literally making a piece of art to express yourself and your frustration. And so I draw a lot of these meditative characters. And, it's a way for me to get calm and centered. And again, many might think, and many do think, that how can you sit still in a time of war? How can you meditate when there's people suffering? And I'll say, well, how can you not, right? Meaning, that's a way for you to essentially become useful, to be of service. If you can find whatever it is that's going to help you become of service to those in need, especially in times of war. So, there's this great book, speaking of war in art. It makes me think of two amazing books. It's kind of like what I'm playing off of there. One is The War of Art, and the other is The Art of War. So two great authors, Stephen Pressfield and Sun Tzu, both from vastly different times, generations. And they're, two completely different books, but they have these similar titles: Art of War, War of Art. So coming back to this idea of why create art in a time of war. And if you really think about it, there's always war. We're just more exposed to it. We have a constant window, portal into the wars of the world. And it's kind of a first in history. We've always had news, but back in my day, back when I was a kid, well, you can just go out on your bike or your skateboard, and we didn't have cell phones. It was an amazing time to be alive. Once you were out in the fucking ether. Like, your parents didn't know where you were, like, you just knew where you were, and hopefully you had friends to hang out with. And now we just have access to all of the world's everything. All of the world's greatness and all of the world's suffering we have access to. And that is traumatizing on the human nervous system. And that trauma is stored in your body, and then it's going to come out. It's going to find its way out. It's going to find its way out through literal exercise, which is great to release it. And it's going to find its way out in expression. So how you choose to express yourself. Expression can be negative. So what would you rather do? Express yourself positively or negatively? You know, I love this idea of rage art. And I've done that before. You get a big canvas or just a big piece of paper, or if you're blessed to have a garage and you can get messy, literally like attacking a canvas is amazing. I look forward to whenever I can broadcast something like that. So I'm not always sitting here creating these Zen images. Sometimes you just really need to express the rage that you have. Because in this world, there's a lot of helplessness. In that, what can we do about the wars in, let's say, Iran? And that's just one of the wars happening now. One of the wars in Israel, Gaza, right? That's another war. What about the war in your own mind? There's another war. There's always wars and always rumors of wars. And it doesn't matter if you're religious or not per se, but Jesus talked about this, you know, these end times, as it were, which many people believe we're in. But hey, I think every generation believes they're in the end times, that they're the special ones in which the end comes and then there's a new beginning. But anyway, he talked about wars and rumors of wars and all of these calamities and earthquakes and but every generation has this. But I think we can all agree that, well, this time is different. And every generation says that too. This time is different. This time this time truly is different. Primarily because, well, we have access to all of the world in our pockets. And thank you guys for being here, for choosing to be here. There's other places that you could be putting your attention. Hopefully you guys are sketching along with me. But if not, thanks for watching. So we have access to the world in our pockets, and now we have this thing called artificial intelligence, which is taking on new meanings every day. Artificial intelligence is an entity. It is beyond a tool. People say, oh, it's just a tool. Yeah, what other tools can think and reason? right? And of course they're trained by us. And there's the talk of, okay, when does AI reach sentience? And what does that even mean, right? Does a sentient thing feel like us? Is that what they're talking about? Or they're just talking about completely autonomous, which you can just start training your agents right now to become totally autonomous and to do shit for you. You can have an agent working for you right now. Whenever I think of agents and AI, I think of Agent Smith in The Matrix. Like, not all agents are bad, but look, to what end do you want AI working for you? I want AI to be cleaning my house right now, but I don't have that set up so that I have to do it. I get to do it, but ultimately I want AI to clean my house and do my laundry and even cook my food so that I can do this, so that I can do this, what you're seeing here. And not only do this, but teach this. So, the first half of my life, I just turned 50 the other day. And my, how time just flies. It really does. And, when you think about it, an average human life is not that long. And I'm not trying to instill more fear or being morbid or anything. That's just the reality of it. And personally, I believe we just keep coming back here to relearn and relearn and relearn and grow and grow and grow. But anyways, we have this one life. And so what are you going to do with it? Primarily, besides your fucking taxes and cleaning your house and doom scrolling on social media. Look, I do all these things too, but I've been doing them a lot less in the past few years because eventually that shit gets old. Like, seeing what other people are doing, and I'm not saying you guys are doing that here. There's a lot of people giving value out there, and this is my attempt to give value through creating a container, a space for people to come in and learn. But just, here's an example. Sometimes, a lot of times, I'll just watch Bob Ross just to watch him because he's so calm and kind and sweet, and it's fascinating. I don't do oil paintings, but I've learned a lot from his techniques. And so, again, I'm not really explaining technique here. I'm working my way up to that with my online community. This is just a place to watch someone make art. And, art is the expression of thought and energy. And, this whole discussion is about art and war. And not feeling guilty for making art while other people are fighting and dying and explosions. And, this stuff has always been happening. I remember being a kid and just thinking and watching the news about Iran. Iran has always been in the news with the US and Israel, and all of these same countries were in the news when I was a kid. And there was turmoil and starvation everywhere, and it was just horrible. And again, especially as a kid, you're like, what the fuck am I going to do with that? And then now being an adult, half a century old, I still ask the same question. I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do with that? Meaning, how can I be of use to people in Israel or Iran? I can protest, but what is that really going to do? I could support financially, which I have many times in the past, to different organizations, especially for Red Cross and World Vision and things involving people that are starving, and especially children. But these are just very small things that we can do to maybe alleviate a little suffering, right? But I believe as the older I get, the more I work on myself and relieve my own anxiety, the more I believe I'm helping the world. And here's the reason. if you work on yourself and you work on your stress and anxiety and your nervous system, and you get it to a manageable level where you're not stressed as much and you're not frying your nervous system, you are one less person in the world who is in that state. And in that way of thinking, you are helping the world by helping yourself. Because what good are you if you are completely stressed and completely fried and completely worried? What good are you? You're no good to yourself, and you're no good to the world. If you take care of yourself, then you can take care of others. And so it took me a while to get to that revelation, this idea of being fit to serve, right? In order to serve others, you need to know how to serve yourself. It can sound very selfish, but I believe it's one of the most selfless things that one can do. So hopefully you guys are taking the time to engage in whatever self-care looks like for you. That could be meditation, that could be exercise, that could be eating right. And again, are you creating more than you're consuming? Are you doom scrolling? I get these ideas. This morning was like, trade doom scrolling for drawing, right? And again, like, what is the benefit of knowing too much, right? Knowing, I have to know what's going on in the world all the time. Like, what is the true benefit of that? Okay, so you'll know, and then you'll be more stressed, and then you'll be more worried, and you will freeze more. Or you will fight, or you will flee, right? Those classic freeze, flight, flee, or fawn, right? That's another one. What good are those to you and your friends and your family? How about you become the strongest, calmest person in your family, in your friend group, for the sake of them, and then ultimately for the sake of the world? Because the people that say, I want to change the world, I always think, which world? There's 8 billion of them. Seriously, every single one of us is our own world, our own worldview, our own energetic system. Okay, let me just talk about this drawing for a second. So I've been really exploring this idea of the eye of the heart. And that comes from, if you've ever heard of the Gospel of Mary. It's one of the lost gospels of early Christianity. And it was deemed a heresy by the early church because they didn't want women having power. And yes, I am a feminist in that I believe in equality for all people. That's what a true feminist is. It's not about do away with the patriarchy and fuck men. It's like, no, I'm a man and I'm proud of that. And I come from a woman, and so do we all. And so we're not going to get into defining what a woman is, because whole other can of worms there for a lot of people. But back to the eye of the heart. It talks about seeing through the eye of the heart in order to, truly see the world. And that was tied into something called nous, which in Greek means mind. And what they meant wasn't what we think of mind. They meant of this connection between the mind and the heart. Nous, mind. And supposedly Jesus talked about learning to see through the eye of the heart. And it makes sense. I mean, if we can truly get into our hearts and see the world through our hearts, well, imagine if everyone did that for one day. It would be a completely different world. But the ego is strong. And that's not what we're talking about when we talk about the mind or nous in this ancient context. So, well, what does that even mean? How do you even see through the eye of the heart? Well, first of all, you have to learn to love yourself. You can only love others to the extent that you love yourself. And this is a very difficult thing for a lot of people to do. And the people that kind of hide behind their hatred for themselves, but can truly love other people. There are many people like this. They hate themselves, and they are so kind to other people. And God bless them, but what a horrible place to be. But if you can truly love yourself and then love others the same, equally, that's the core of what Jesus was talking about. That's the core of what all of the great religious teachers are talking about. Or spiritual teachers. Or the teachers that really, they were all about full integration. And this is what Carl Jung beautifully synthesized, is the individuation process. And this is what Jesus was talking about when he was talking about being undivided. You know, if you study Greek and, there's so much out there to study. I'm just breaking it all down for you. I'm synthesizing so many things for you guys right now. I know it's a whirlwind. But, the word, when Jesus was tempted out in the desert, we have the classic story of a man that goes out in the desert and is tempted by this dark being with wings and fucking horns and shit, which is a cool image. And, I do consider myself a follower of Christ, but I'm not a Christian. So what I say might offend some people who are very orthodox, meaning they are an old school way of thinking about Jesus and God. But when Jesus went out in the desert, do you really think that the devil was waiting for him behind a tree or a rock? Like there was this dark being with horns and he was just like hiding behind a bush? No. Where was the devil? The devil was inside of Jesus. Blasphemy. The devil is inside of everyone in this form of what we call the ego. Diabolos also means divider. The ego is the divider. It's the accuser. It's the same fucking story throughout history. The devil in the Old Testament, the accuser, is the divider, is the, I would say, negative egoic energy. Look, we need an ego in order to live our day-to-day and to have a sense of self, small s self. I'm not talking about the capital S self that Carl Jung was referring to. But we need that. We are individual beings. But when Carl Jung was talking about individuation, he was talking about becoming a whole, unified being. And so that is where work, like shadow work, comes in. And, we all have shadows, right? We all have things we don't see. That's why it's called shadow. We don't see them, right? But the more we shine the light inward, again, you can take things almost word for word Jesus was saying and then analytically analyze them through Carl Jung's work, and they're saying the exact same thing. When Jesus said, when you accuse others about the plank or the tree branch or whatever the fuck in their eye, or the speck in their eye, and you don't notice the plank or the tree branch in your eye, like he's like, what's wrong with you? This is talking about hypocrisy, right? These self-righteous people that all they do is blame, 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 and blame is a form of projection. And that's what we see happening in the world today, is mass projection on a massive scale. And, projection will then inspire, for lack of a better word, more projection. So we are in this now constant loop. And that is why things are going to keep escalating exponentially as we move forward. It's hard to keep up with. day to day there are new attacks, and there's a new war, and there's new fears about AI and AI taking jobs. And again, all the more need to take care of ourselves. And if all you have is 20 minutes a day, this is why I keep kind of hammering this concept to you guys, and we're coming up on 20 minutes right now, that if all you had was 20 minutes to just engage in something you love, in this case drawing, that is enough to change your life. If you change your life, you change the life of others around you. And that is where we start. Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. Like, you have to do it. Enough of the blaming and more of the, okay, what can I do to make myself better today? It might be, okay, I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk. And something I love to talk about, and a lot of people are like, there he goes again about consistency. Consistency will beat everything any day. It'll beat talent. It beats everything. If you are consistently creative every day for 20 minutes, again, you got to do it for the long haul, the long game, as it were. But you do it because you love it. But if you're consistent every day for 20 minutes, after a month, 30 days, that's 600 minutes of you being creative. Doesn't sound like a lot in the 20 minutes. Some people are like, nah, I need more time than that. Well, just think in terms of the long game. Imagine after a year, you do 600 minutes a month, 6,000, 600, 7,000. I don't know. I'm bad at math. That's why I'm an artist. I'm kidding. So thousands of hours of creative time by the end of the year. Think of what you can have. You can have an amazing collection of art you've made. You can have the beginnings of a graphic novel. You could have art for a pop-up art show or an actual exhibition. So many things can happen, right? But you got to give it that time. Think of your art and your creativity like a plant. You have to water it and you have to nurture it, and you can't be going back to the seed to make sure it's growing, right? This is the importance of community and groups and being able to just be around other people doing the same thing that you are. It's could be difficult doing that while you're scrolling, but again, I appreciate everyone who has shown up here. And if you'd like to join my school community, where it's just a bunch of artists like me, and yes, I'm kind of leading the community in a way, but it's kind of self-leading at this point, which is great. People are posting their work. We do challenges every month, and ultimately I'll be teaching how to do this, the hows, right? But first, you kind of get into the habit. This here, what I just did here in 20 minutes, can absolutely be taught and learned by anyone who has a desire to do it. I have a free Drawing the Face course in my school community, so you can join that. The link is in my bio. And you can learn how to do, at least this part, which is great. You want to get this part right. All of this is, more anatomy and takes a bit more time to learn, but you start with the face. People always ask me, like, I want to draw. I don't know where to start. You start with the face. And so it's a 3-hour course. It's absolutely free. You can watch it in a weekend, and you can start learning how to draw the face with the eyes open. I do a lot of these characters that have their eyes closed. They're in a meditative state. And I've shared that story before, but I wanted to be able to express drawings that were just as expressive with their eyes closed. And it was a challenge that I set upon myself years ago. And I realized, it's totally possible. And in some ways, it's even more effective. And in many ways, it's easier because, the eyes are a bit tricky and you want to get them right, obviously. But to have them closed, having just 2 kind of downward, little half circles or whatever, right? It doesn't take much to make a character be expressive with their eyes closed. And see, there's structure in all of this. So that I explain in my course, the Drawing the Face course, is the structure of it all. And, to wrap things up, hopefully you guys can start thinking about how you want to structure your time. Ultimately, that is our most valuable resource. And just know this, that 20 minutes of creating art a day will change your life. And it could start out looking like absolute shit. And that's totally fine, right? You don't have to show anyone. You just grab a tool, a pencil, and some paper and just move around. It's a great way to ground and connect. You're literally connecting to something. If there's no people in your life you can connect to, you can always connect to your paper because it's gonna, reflect back, and you will get better in time. You'll get better and better and better. I've been doing this if I were to add up all the time, I started drawing when I was 3 and I'm 50 now. So 47 years I've been drawing every day. So yeah, I'm a little bit ahead, but that's fine. There's a lot of people way more ahead of me, and I don't compare myself to them, or I try not to. That's a whole other topic, the art of non-comparison. Anyway, thanks for being here, guys, and I will see you probably tomorrow. Have a beautiful day.